And we are live. Greetings and salutations, everyone. It is Tuesday, February 27th, and the hour is in the PM 3:33. And we're going on 3:33 and 33 seconds in 3, 2, 1. All right. So I have gotten off work early today as I do not have midterm responsibility. I thought that I actually did, and I had prepared my midterms, and the secretary, the teacher, the other person who's in charge of it, she said, just give me the midterms and then you don't have to attend that class. So she's just gonna hand them out and make sure that they do them and then give it back to me so I can grade it. Nice. So I'm happy about that. So I bailed out. I skipped out early, which is good. I just finished watching Thomas Sheridan's new video, which dropped over at his on his page here on YouTube. If you haven't checked him out, you should. He's got a couple of YouTube channels. He's got Thomas, Thomas Sheridan, Sheridan, Thomas Sheridan 1 and 2, and then he's got another YouTube page called Beyond Room 313. I've been watching a few of his videos that were suggested to me by Charles. Appreciate that, Frater Charles. Hail the Lightbringer, hail the Horned God. So I finished watching his, and he was talking a lot about the jab, the jibbity jab jab, and the cooties, the coovies, and its possible influence on society at large. And I've honestly just been totally ignoring the entire situation because I'm just busy with other things, and I don't really care about it that much. I'm in China, I'm in Beijing, so nobody has told me anything really about the jib jab for the coovies. I heard right at the end of last semester when I had my problem, I heard quite a few of the other teachers talking about it and discussing it in the group chats and stuff. And when they offered the, what should we call it, the patch, the upgrade, the matrix tweaking, jibbity jab, quite a few of them seemed excited about it. They're like, ooh, line me up, man, I want to be a fucking guinea pig. But me personally, I just ignore it, and I ignore their nonsense. And yeah, so as far as that goes, from what I understand, they cannot mandate anything like that for adults, and I don't think they will. And I think the more we ignore it and refuse it, it'll either go away, or the folks who end up guinea pigs will start to get a little bit of the Innsmouth look. And that's ultimately, my little phone holder is really bouncing around today. I don't know what's up with that. It's usually not this active. So yeah, he was tying it back to Lovecraft and The Shadow over Innsmouth, which I am well steeped in my Lovecraft. I have been, in fact, that's why I thought I was going to die at 46, man, and I almost did. So there's a little correlation there. And I've been writing Lovecraftian style stories in a collection of short stories called The Demon King of Peking. So I've connected with that magic a little. And a lot of folks here in the capital have a bit of the Innsmouth look. You know, they look part Ithikic and Patrakian This is an eldritch city. It's, from what I understand, it's close to 1,000 years old, and it's built specifically as the seat of the emperor and aligned so that it's got a good southern facing view of the night sky and Orion's belt. But also we have a good view of the north and the Big Dipper. So when there's clear weather, which there very rarely is, we've got an interesting sky formation. But the principles of geomancy came into play for all the what's called the old city, the inner city, which is inside the second ring road. And there are quite a few paranormal stories that I've encountered since I've been over here. Just think of a few. The neighborhood that I live in is known as, in Chinese, it's called whatever the name is in Chinese. I'm not going to say it. I don't want you dialing in on me that close. But it's just south of a little part of the town called Double Well. And the one I'm in is called Pleasant Pine. And there's some ghost stories over there about a wandering ghost that supposedly was a woman who was put to death, and her child, during the revolution. And I guess her body was like drugged through the street there. So this is we're talking the Cultural Revolution was right after World War II. So the 40s, 50s, and 60s, I guess it started up, you know, when the chairman took control of the country. And so they have called it officially China in 1949, but it lasted well into like the mid 60s and even early 70s. They were still playing their brainwashing games. But during that period, supposedly this gal was, I talked to a 100-year-old man that lived over there. He was nearly 100. I think he was in his 90s. He told me he was like 93 or something. He's passed away since then. This was 20 years ago. But I specifically asked him if there were any, if he said that he had lived there his entire life. He'd been in that one little neighborhood. And he told me stories about when the Japanese came through and they were here and they were killing people in the streets, chopping their heads off. I guess that was in the 30s. So he was probably a kid. And then he went through the Cultural Revolution, which he said was all bullshit. And it ended up being just a full-on love fest of cannibalism and starvation. And he said the real problem that killed most of the people, he said that the neighborhoods around where I live and the neighborhood that we're in lost upwards of 50% of its population. And that was in part due to starvation, but he said the real killer were the rats, because people were dying off and just eating whatever they could eat to try to survive, that the rats were getting the bodies and nobody was really clearing them out, because if someone dropped dead, then they would just eat them as well. And the rats were spreading a very virile pestilence that ended up making everyone sick. And yeah, something like 50% of the population just dropped dead during that period. So stuff like this plague type thing, Chinese style plagues, it's nothing new over here. And for it to spread worldwide is not really that new either. They're back to Lovecraft again in the horror at Red Hook. Even the Shadow over Innsmouth is a plague brought over from China, supposedly they think, spread by sailors that took Chinese wives. So it's quite fascinating that Lovecraft was so far ahead of his time in his writing and his thinking and identifying those ills in society. But yeah, I would personally recommend avoiding it because it is an mRNA experimental type thing, and you don't know what you're getting. It's a mixed bag. So you take your own life, you take your life into your own hands if you go down that route, and I would say avoid it. So how do we use magic to combat the current situation that we're in? I did a little reading up on 333 because I've experienced it so much, and it seems as if that's the part of the path that I'm on right now. I'm being met with the lesser guardian of the first gate of the abyss. So globally, we're going through that same challenge. You start with the middle pillar meditation and relaxation and invocation of the three Dantians on the middle pillar. Now, I got to give you a note on the Chinese internal alchemy system and its simplicity over the tantric yoga system. In the tantric yoga system, you have 7 major chakras and 5 other auxiliary chakras for a total of 13 chakra points in your meditation, and it's all just on a single column. But in the Chinese system of small circuit orbit and cultivating your spiritual energies that way, it's far more simplistic and far more direct. There's Jing Qi Shen. Jing is the lower Dantian. The lower Dantian is the production center and storehouse of Jing Qi, which is the physical vitality, the source of Qi energy. One form of Qi energy anyway. When we get into Qi, many people talk about it. It's not just one thing. It comes in various qualities. So Jing Qi is the seminal fluid in the male, in a man, and it is the seat of your physical energy. So it's the lower Dantians, a couple of finger widths below the navel and a couple of finger widths in from the navel. So you do the diaphragmatic breathing, lower Dantian breathing, in order to build up that heat energy. Now, even Thomas was talking about how once you start practicing magic, internal alchemy, Chinese Taoist internal alchemy is a form of magic, that rooms start to heat up and your heating bill will go down because you generate so much heat. That's from lower Dantian energy, Dantian breathing.